Good morning, gang. Happy Monday morning. Okay, we're back at it, and I don't know, call this whatever you want, all right? A couple of things happened overnight. About 4 hours ago or so, I'm recording this around 5:30. In my opinion, good news, not that I'm ever going to wish for the death of anybody, but Pope Francis died overnight. 1:35 in the morning, New York time. Okay. So, like I said, about 4 hours ago. Okay. He's 88 years old, had pneumonia. I mean, I predicted it was going to happen last year. My January 1st, 2024 prediction said he was going to die last year. I was 4 months off. Okay. Not that was going out on a limb saying a guy who was at the time 87 was going to die soon, but okay. But there's an interesting thing to this. You got to remember, and I'm not going to dwell into this one too long because there's more important stuff to talk about, but first Jesuit Pope we had, first communist Pope we had for sure. It's going to be interesting to see how the Catholic Church turns from this. Let's just use that because you got to remember, this was a Pope who believed in climate change, who thought open borders in the United States were an absolute necessity and condemned the U.S. for not letting illegals cross willy-nilly, all while, of course, sitting in a country, the Vatican actually is an independent nation, surrounded by a wall, okay, who completely against the Bible, was all for gay marriage and trans rights and all this sort of bullshit. Okay. So he's gone. Where do we go from here? What's the leadership of the Catholic Church going to be going forward? Do they go back to true Catholicism? Do they go back to following the Bible? Or is it just another leftist, liberal, progressive talking head? Okay. That's going to be the interesting part. If the Catholic, in my opinion, if the Catholic Church is smart, they are going to go back to a traditional Catholic Pope. Because if there's one thing that the world needs right now, and it seems like we might be getting a little bit of it, is a restoration of faith, because there ain't much left to hope for, because everything else is falling apart. So we'll see. On that note, and there's no correlation between the two. It's really weird that the days happen the same. Be happy that you've got out of cash, that you've bought alternative assets, gold, silver, I'll even say Bitcoin. In case anybody's noticed, the dollar is crashing overnight, and this is going to affect a lot of us. All right. The dollar is now trading at lows we haven't seen since the beginning of March of 2022, okay, when we were just coming out of COVID, when the dollar crashed a lot during COVID. There's a big problem with this, and this is where we get into the whole story on Jerome Powell, because the supposed reason that the dollar is crashing overnight, I'll get to how this affects you, is that all the talk on Friday about Trump wanting to replace Jerome Powell, because Jerome Powell, as a Fed chair, has always been a day late and a dollar short, okay? He has no forward vision. Everything he does is reactive. He's no Alan Greenspan, let's put it that way. But this is where it comes into play, because now that we're seeing the dollar trading down at about 97, I'll give you this, it wasn't but a few weeks ago the dollar was trading around 105, okay? And again, I know this is over the top of people's head, but that's how the currency exchange rate between the dollar and a basket of industrialized nation stocks, okay? Basically what it is. It's going to affect you. Your dollar is worth less, which means it's going to buy less, all right? The Japanese yen or the euro are going to be more expensive. The dollar is going to be cheaper. This does not bode well for Americans. It doesn't bode well for the rest of the world either. Because what's inevitably going to happen, okay, is the Bank of Japan or the European Central Bank isn't just going to be able to sit around and watch the dollar fall apart, okay? Because that's going to push their currencies higher and higher and higher and higher. And then we have an even bigger problem with the trade issues, when all of a sudden there's no sort of consistency in currency rates. And I've talked about exchange risk, currency risk here in a couple of the investing videos I've done. What the difference is between buying U.S. stocks and European stocks or mutual funds or Japanese or Chinese or anything like that. Not only do you have the investment risk, whatever happens to the company, but you have the currency risk, because even if the investment doesn't go anywhere, if the currency goes up or down, that could change your returns, okay? So your stock could go nowhere, currency values go against you, and even though the company's doing exactly the same thing, you're losing money, okay? In this case, that's exactly what's going to happen as the dollar weakens. But what's going to wind up happening is then all these other countries are going to have no choice but to start cutting interest rates. And then when that doesn't do anything to bring back the balance, then they're going to start printing money again. And then we have an issue, okay? Because then we wind up with more and more debt, which causes more and more inflation, which causes more and more problems. So what's all happened overnight with this? Well, let's see. Gold hit an all-time high in the overnight trade so far, over $3,400. I mean, I'm laughing at this because it seems like every month we're hitting a new $100 target. I mean, it's silly when you start looking at what gold has done, okay, recently. And if I pull this real quick, just to give you an idea, year to date, gold is up 29.2%. Think about that. That's crazy, okay? In the last week, it's up 5. In the last month, it's up 12.5. You don't get those weekly returns are what you hope for in a year. Those monthly returns are better than the stock market does historically. And the year-to-date return is better than the stock market has done in the last few years. It's freaking gold, okay? Boring gold that doesn't make any money, that doesn't pay any interest, whatever, just keeps going up. I laugh at it because yesterday, Mrs. P and I bought some more silver, okay? Silver's up 30 cents today. Silver's weak. Silver's only up 13.5% this year. Why'd I buy silver? Because if gold's up 29 and silver's up 13, my guess is the next run is in silver. Because eventually it gets to a point where people look at this, like I did, and said, gold's a little too expensive. I think I'll be putting my money in silver and let it catch up. If we get back to 80-1 as a ratio for silver, where does that put us at? 40? Yeah, a little better, about 40. About 41. I'll take $8 growth on silver, 25% upside from here. No problem. But even then, you look at Bitcoin. People are looking for anywhere to put dollars. Bitcoin saw a rally yesterday, biggest rally we've seen since the election, and the highest prices we've seen on Bitcoin since the end of March. Okay? There's a lot of talk out there that this rally could feasibly flight to safety. I mean, this is crazy when you hear people talk about a flight to safety and Bitcoin in the same sentence. But this is how silly it is that they're talking about people getting out of the dollar, getting out of the stock market. Stock market futures are down again this morning, okay, and putting their money into Bitcoin because it's safer. Think about that. I mean, that's, I mean, at least to me, I look at this and go, seriously, this is what is going on. Okay. So now you're hearing these analysts go, we could see a new all-time high in Bitcoin in the next few weeks. I'm not saying this. I'm saying this is what you're hearing Wall Street analysts say. The all-time high in Bitcoin is like 108, 109, something like that. Bitcoin's at 87 right now. So that means there's a 25% upside in Bitcoin right now. In the short term, there's 25% upside in silver. And you wonder why people are moving money. Pay attention to what you see right now. Things are getting crazy. The Pope dying. Who knows which way the church goes? Who knows which way the radical left losing the Pope? We'll see what happens because Francis also replaced a lot of the more conservative cardinals with communist cardinals. So they may pick another communist pope. Removing Jerome Powell? Trump and J.D. Vance saying that unless there's some progress in the Russia-Ukraine peace talks, that we're just walking away? It's getting crazier, guys. The more you think about this, the more you look at it, be very thankful you are a prepper, because an economic implosion is getting closer and closer and closer. And then you start adding leadership, for lack of a better term, around the world starting to fall apart. We could be on the cusp of another 1929. Could be. Not saying it's coming. Just pay attention. Pinball out.